time has come to test the Automat proxy and the Automat server. The Automat server is in its own class, the Automat server class, and that's going to run by itself. And in order to test the Automat proxy, we're going to create a program called test Automat proxy. It's going to create an Automat proxy object. We store it in a variable called Automat proxy, as you see here. And now it's very simple to work with that Automat proxy because it supports the methods of the Automat class. And to the code here, Automat proxy looks just like an actual Automat object. Behind the scenes, of course, it's connecting to the server, sending text messages to the server and getting back text responses. And here is how you can use the Automat proxy object in the testing Automat proxy program. You say automat proxy.getApplication, automat proxy.checkApplication, automat proxy.rentApartment. So you see, actually, working with a proxy is just like working with an actual Automat object. As far as this code is concerned, it's very simple. You just call the Automat methods on the Automat proxy object, and the proxy, in fact, connects to the server, sends it the method to execute, and the server executes that method, that Automat method, and sends back the response to the proxy, which will then print out the response. So let's put this to the trial. And we're going to start by launching the Automat server. This launches the Automat server, which is now waiting for response. We're waiting for directions from the Automat proxy over the internet. And in fact, we're going to use the Automat proxy on the same machine and connect to the Automat server. We're going to send those, as you saw, those get applications, got application, and so forth methods to the Automat server, which is then going to send us back text, which will then be displayed, showing that it got the text and executing those methods. So here we are, test Automat proxy, and there you are, connecting to the server, connected to the server, and it says, thanks for your application. Congratulations, you are approved. Renting an apartment, here are your keys. So you see, we've been able to use an actual Automat proxy to connect to the server and run the actual Automat methods on the server. But to the current code, to the client code, this looked like you were actually running an Automat object. And instead, of course, you actually had this proxy, which is a stand-in for Automat object, and sent the messages over the internet, came back, and were printed out. So as you see, it's completely functional, and that's the way the proxy design pattern works. It allows you to have an object that is a stand-in for a remote object of some kind and a surrogate for that remote object, and it has the same methods as that remote object, but of course those methods just connect remotely to the remote object where they're actually invoked, and the remote object sends back the response, and the proxy forwards the response onto the client code, so it looks like, for all intents and purposes, it's actually the object that it's representing. So that is the proxy design pattern, and a very useful one, although, as you see in Java, it takes a little extra coding in order to put this one together.